What's going on, YouTube? So BMW has been busy lately revamping their entire SUV lineup. And at the most affordable price point is this BMW X1. And we've had the pleasure to live with this X1 for the past 7 days. So, does this give you a true BMW experience? Let's go ahead and find out. Alright, so let's start things off under the hood, as always, with our spec dump. The X1 comes with two available powertrains. We have the up-level option, which is an enhanced 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, making 312 horsepower. That's going to be paired to standard all-wheel drive and a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission, and our combined fuel economy is 26 mpg.
Now, of course, we can't wait to discuss our real-world fuel economy over the past week. We'll also be getting things like our sound level reading when we take it out for a test drive. After that, we'll discuss resale and reliability as well.
Well, let's go ahead and close up the hood because we need to start off with the exterior design as well as the interior luxury and technology. Now, this X1 was recently redesigned, and that means you have the latest and greatest BMW design language on board. It's not quite as extreme as some of the newest products. It's a little more subdued. Even when you get a performance version like what we have, this is going to be kind of the most aggressive looking model. So you'll have the M Sport elements up here in the front. That's the full blacked out grille with the extended shadow line trim. You also have the very aggressive lower fascia with a lot of places for air to flow in. Now, if you choose one of the more basic models, you're going to have a more subdued look. And let's talk about our headlights. So you do have standard full LED headlights on board. These are projector LEDs. They also have cornering abilities. And you have that daytime running light and turn signal indicator with the fading effect. Now, as you walk around to the back of the X1, it has a little bit more of a boxy shape, which I think makes it look larger than it actually is.
Yeah, and it has a lot of design components from bigger, more expensive BMW SUVs. Now, one of those design components that you'll definitely notice are these taillights. They have a very similar look to other products like the X3 and X5. Now, as far as the lighting components themselves, we do have an LED brake light, LED turn signal, and LED reverse light, so it's a full LED setup that gives you that nice premium experience. We have an exposed wiper through here, and then here for the M35i, the up-level powertrain option, we're going to have quad exhaust outlets and a really aggressive lower diffuser.
Now, wheels will range in size from 18 to 20 inches. We have the available 20-inch alloy wheels. Nice contrast design on board with this. Behind the spokes, you'll also notice that we have the available red brake calipers, which really pop with this frozen metallic paint color. So this is a matte paint. As you can see, it is a pricey option, about $2,600, but obviously you can get some more affordable paint options if you prefer. We do have gloss black finish up here on our mirrors with the little wings for the M design. These are going to have most of the features on board, including heating and blind spot monitoring as standard equipment, power folding and auto dimming available via the convenience group.
Now, at the side of the X1, here is where you will notice that this is their smallest SUV. It's 177 inches long, which is about a couple inches shorter than a RAV4 for reference, and overall height isn't going to be too tall either, although we do have nice roof rails on this M35 model. Now, as far as your safety systems are concerned, we're going to get several of those as standard equipment. However, you will have to option on adaptive cruise control as well as lane keep assist if you want those features. But guys, let's go ahead and dive into the inside and see what you're going to get in there and our impressions after 7 days. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
All right, now let's go ahead and move on to the interior. First, of course, we'll take a look at the key fob. This is BMW's newest key fob. We get the full gloss black finish with the M colors on board. Remote start is an available option for $300 on the fob. Now, getting inside, just reach behind this handle here. It's the flip-up style door handle, so you just pull up on it. And then taking a look at the interior. As you can see, we have a nice looking design. It's pretty familiar to many of the other BMW products, so you're not getting a substantially different looking cabin from their more expensive products. Let's talk about the seats though, because as you can see, since we have the M35i model, we have these performance bucket seats. I have really nice things to say about these. They look fantastic in this red and black color scheme. They're all one piece here. The M logo there actually glows at night. They hold you in place really well with these bolsters, and they are very comfortable. So a lot of nice things to say about it. Now, in terms of the material on board, this is Veganza, so this is a faux leather. And as far as your adjustments, you have 10 ways of power adjustment, plus 4 ways of lumbar support, and you have a manual thigh extension. Memory seats are located over here on the door trim, and then let's go ahead and climb inside. Now I'll go ahead and close up the door here, and let's get into the rest of the cabin materials. So you might be wondering, is the cabin cheap because this is your most affordable BMW SUV? Well, not at all. The materials are really very similar to that new X3. So you have leatherette over here on the door trim. We have red inserts through here, and we even have a leatherette across the top part with the stitching detail. Speaker grille is made of real metal, and then as we move to the upper dash, we have more leatherette through here with stitching details. As we come to the center, we have kind of a faux aluminum trim with a texture running throughout. And then down here in our lower panels, we'll just have some piano black finishes, no padding or anything like that. Your push button start is located right here on the floating console. We're all fired up now, so let's get into individual details. First of all, as always, we've got our gauge cluster on board. This is a 10¼ inch gauge cluster, so just be aware it is a little smaller than what you get on the X3, for example, but it does have the same functionality as all the other digital cockpit professionals. And also we have the available head-up display, so that also has a lot of different information inside of it. We've really enjoyed the designs that you can select between when it comes to this head-up display. I've also really enjoyed this steering wheel. So we've got the performance steering wheel on board. It has a nice thick rim to it. Of course, it is leather wrapped as well. You have some big paddle shifters behind the steering wheel itself, and it is going to be manual tilt and telescoping. All right, let's talk about interior storage. So this model has a floating console. It's a very unique kind of look. So what this causes is that you have all this storage down here in this area, readily accessible, but also not really enclosed. And then all you have up here is just this little slender thing. That's all that's going to be enclosed. So obviously we can't fit a donut inside of this little slit. And if we put our donuts in this area, they're at risk of falling right on out of here. So it's kind of hard to score this in terms of the donut test. You might want to put your donuts inside the glove box if you want to keep them secure. Now, in front of that, we've got our 2 cup holders. You also have a wireless phone charging pad with a little clip that kind of holds it in place. This part does light up with ambient lights when it is charging, by the way, and there's a lot of nice ambient lighting inside of this interior. Now, in terms of our shifter, just like most BMWs, you have the little nub shifter, pull down for drive, bump again into sport mode, and that's when you can use those paddle shifters. When we head into reverse, you'll see the 360-degree camera system pop up if you've optioned that on to your X1 model. It does have a nice overhead view, and you can go into here and click the 3D view. This, of course, is kind of everyone's fan favorite, where you can spin all around the vehicle. And then just press the P right there for park. Make sure you actually hit the P. It's very tempting to hit the start-stop button. We've done that many times this week, and I'll just still put the vehicle into park as a safety measure, but it does also, of course, turn the engine off. Over here on the side, we have our volume knob for the audio system. So we've got the available Harman Kardon sound system. Let's go ahead and give it a sample right now. Yeah, overall sound quality is really solid with this sound system. It really fills up the cabin nicely, and it's a good balanced sound system. Okay, so let's kind of dig into this area up here. And first of all, we'll talk about our climate controls. So just like all of the recent BMWs, climate is going to be built into the display itself. This is a dual zone automatic climate control system, and you simply tap up and down to make those adjustments. You can also tap on that little emblem there. That's where you can access your standard heated seats on all models. This is also where we have our 3-stage heated steering wheel. And if you tap that little fan there, you can make additional customizations. You will notice, though, we are missing seat ventilation. That's because that is not offered on any version of the X1. Now let's talk about the display itself. So this is a 10.7-inch display. This is running iDrive 9. So that is the latest and greatest version of iDrive. Visually, it's not very different from 8.5, but fundamentally, all of the background software is going to be different, and it is supposed to run a little bit smoother overall. In our experience, it's worked mostly well. We do have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay on board also. Mason didn't have any connection problems. I did have some connection problems with my Android Auto. We do not have that problem with our BMW, but as you can see, we have lots of different apps and things inside of here, and overall it's very nice and smooth. Navigation is also built in as a standard feature. Now as we rise above here, we've got an auto dimming mirror with HomeLink universal remotes. Both of those things are available options. And then we can roll back the sunshade to our panoramic sunroof. This is an available option again on all the models. You can just get it in a variety of different packages. The nice thing, though, is the fact that this front panel does open up, which is something that the new X3 does not do.
All right, so let's dive into the rear seat area of this X1. Now, you might expect this to be a really tight and cramped space, but I'm happy to tell you that, thankfully, it is actually plenty spacious enough. I'm 5'9". For reference, this seat is adjusted to Drew, who is 5'8", and look at how much space we have. We have about, we're looking at about 6 or so inches of additional knee room. That's quite good. And I also do have room for my feet to slide up underneath of the seat. Now, as far as the official specs from BMW, we're looking at about 37 inches of legroom, but about 39 inches of headroom. There's a ton of headroom back here. It feels open and airy. Now, as far as the features that you'll find, if I get this down, this is your center armrest with 2 cup holders inside. You do also have the ability to recline the seat. You'll just have to find this little strap, and when you do that, it will allow you to kind of adjust your seat position just a little bit. And then as far as features here in the center, that's going to be vents. That's standard on all models. We also have 2 charging USB ports. No climate controls and no heated rear seats are offered, but you do have, I don't know, maybe a little storage cubby right through here, and there is a little bit of a tunnel for that center passenger. Now, as far as the door trim is concerned, the top part will be kind of a harder plastic, but most of the door trim itself is comprised of either metal or leather for your armrest portion. Really quite nice. And then we have a ton of door storage down in the bottom. The door storage is actually big enough to fit an entire Stanley water bottle, so that's certainly pretty impressive for a vehicle of this size category. Now, standard on every single X1 is a power tailgate with the hands-free ability, so that's certainly quite nice. And also nice is the cargo space. It's a little bit more than you might expect out of something this small, about 25 cubic feet behind the second row of seats. If we fold those seats down, we're looking at about 57 cubic feet. So really quite good space figures. Really, it's more in line with maybe a compact size than anything else. So I'm definitely happy to tell you that. Now, as far as the seats themselves, they do fold 40-20-40 split folding. There are not any handles, so I will have to go up to the second row to do it. And now that I've got all those seats folded down, you'll see the full 57 cubic feet of cargo capacity. Once again, pretty good. And let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures. That's something we do in all of our Car Confections reviews. Behind Drew's 5'8" driving position, we're looking at 68 inches of overall cargo length. From behind the second row, about 35 inches is what you can expect. As far as how wide it is, 41 inches is your answer, and unfortunately the cargo cover is installed on this one. However, we did get that cargo height figure in our BMW X1 28i review, so you can check that out if you would like to learn more. Happy to tell you though, look at this. We have a hidden storage compartment, and it is quite big. I'm not sure if that's included in the 57 cubic feet or not, but if not, that's probably an additional 5 to 7 cubic feet under the floor, so that's pretty cool. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the BMW X1. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a few different things, including the real-world fuel economy, as well as the performance of the vehicle and our sound level reading. But first, we want to go ahead and start by giving you a hard acceleration.
right, that was above 60 miles per hour. Like we mentioned at the spec dump, we've got the M35i model, so that's your higher performance option, as you can tell, for the X1. Quite powerful, 312 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque from an enhanced 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. So you actually do still have a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, which is the same as the base model, but this has substantially more power. And after, it takes a little bit to build that power, but once it kicks in, it's pretty fast.
Yeah, it is. That's for sure. I mean, you probably wouldn't quite expect that for a vehicle like this, but because of its small body, too, just having 312 horsepower, it really does push you back in your seat. Now, as far as the standard version of this vehicle, that is the 28i model. That's kind of a 2-liter turbo for it as well. 241 horsepower on that, 295 pound-feet of torque. So the torque actually remains the same if you choose the M35, so that's interesting. And the 241 is quite good as well. So it's not really a penalty box. We have sampled out the 28i model several times at this point, and the 28i is perfectly adequate. It's actually quite quick for this segment of vehicle, but if you want that extra level of performance, you can get this.
Yeah, this definitely has that extra oomph for those who are a little bit power hungry.
0 to 60 on the 28i model is 6.2 seconds, and if you choose the M35, it's a hair over 5 seconds, 5.2. So you shave a second off by getting this version, and really that's just quite quick. Like we've said throughout this test drive so far, it will kind of shock you how fast it is.
Yeah.
Past 60.
One of the interesting things about this is that it's actually quick enough that it really pushes the weight to the back and actually makes the front end pretty light, and the steering kind of gets loosey-goosey because there's so little weight up in the front. Yeah, it gets kind of almost a little unstable feeling. And by the way, loosey-goosey is a technical term for reviewing vehicles.
Is it?
Definitely. Now let's talk about the other aspect of the powertrain, and that is the transmission. We have a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. As typical with dual-clutch models, you have really fast, super quick shifts. Especially when you're accelerating fast like we just were, you notice it just blast off the shifts. It's also very responsive to these paddle shifters if you're working those. It does have the same quirks as well. So when you're just going through like stop and go traffic, it is a little hesitant at times and has those kind of awkward transitions where it doesn't quite know what to do. So just, keep that in mind. That's going to be the same, transmission for both the M35i and the 28i.
But we're on a straight highway stretch, and what I want to do now is discuss overall ride quality for this X1. Now, here with the M35 model, you're going to come standard with adaptive dampers, and that means that you can really change the overall characteristic between kind of a more luxury focus and a sportier focus. Now, regardless of what drive mode you're in, you are going to have a pretty sporty feel with this model, at least here in the M35 model. I think the 28i was definitely more on the luxury side of things, but when you choose this, it does get a little bit sportier, that's for sure. You will feel some intrusion when it comes to road texture. However, I think it's pretty darn good, and these seats that we have on this model, I've been in love with. I think these seats are super comfortable. They really just hug you in well, and they're also quite supportive. Alright, and we are speeding up to 55 miles per hour so we can get our sound level reading. We went ahead and toggled it to fan speed 1. Very good. 53.2 decibels is what we are sitting at in this X1 M35 model. Now, we don't sit here and guess how it compares to the competition. We can see that at carconfections.com/sound level readings. And indeed, that does mean that you have a really good sound level reading for this segment. It definitely is going to put it as one of the top models. I don't know if it quite takes the top slot, but it is very good for this luxury subcompact segment. We really see that on most of the BMWs that we test out. They're either the quietest or like second quietest in the entire segment. Really, BMW does a fantastic job of making you feel insulated inside the cabin.
Alright, so I went into sport mode to show that off a little bit. Like Mason mentioned just a second ago, this does have adaptive dampers, so when you get into sport mode, it firms up the suspension for one thing. It's also, of course, going to change your throttle response as well as the steering. And we're on this back road here, so we can kind of go around some corners and talk a little bit about the overall dynamics of this. Now, if you're familiar with this product, you might know that this does share bones with Mini Cooper. This is actually a front-wheel drive based architecture, even though it is standard all-wheel drive. And that does mean it feels different than some of the other BMW SUVs, which are rear-wheel drive based. The main thing I notice is just the fact that, you know, there's a little bit more body roll going on for sure, and the steering is definitely going to be a little bit, I'm going to describe it as kind of rubbery. You don't have a lot of response right here in the middle, and then when you go off center, you get this kind of strange, almost overcorrection where it's like kind of touchy. So it's a little bit hard to point and shoot this on a road without feeling like you're kind of unstable, like I was saying, especially if you're hard on the throttle and it kind of lightens up the front wheels. Feels a little bit unstable in that way. I'm sure, you know, the Mini Cooper is going to be lower to the ground, a little bit more aggressive than this. This has a little bit of that extra height, and I think that is what gives it a little bit more body roll. But overall, for a small little SUV, it's still going to be pretty sporty.
Yeah. All right, and let's go ahead and get into our fuel economy. I'll first go ahead and read off the EPA numbers for this model. So for the 28i, we're sitting at 28 miles per gallon combined. Drew already mentioned this, but all-wheel drive is standard on every single X1. The 35i is rated at 26 miles per gallon combined. Now, as far as our real-world fuel economy, we've been sitting at, it's 175 miles at this point. 23.5 mpg is what we're sitting at. I'm going to go ahead and snap a quick picture of that so you can see that on the screen right now. But 23.5 mpg of pretty much exclusive city driving, and also keep in mind, this is the M35i, so we have to, test out the performance and the dynamics. So this test drive has probably not been the most fuel efficient. I am certain of that. So to even be sitting anywhere close to that EPA number, I think is quite impressive. That's for sure. It's actually a little bit ahead of what the EPA says that the city should be. So I think that you'd be getting really good fuel economy out of this model.
Yeah, that's true. Like you said, we have to floor it.
Yeah.
It's required. It's our job.
Now, we do have a pretty aggressive auto start-stop system on board with this X1, and this is one area that is a little bit of a sore subject for me after living with this for the week. The auto start-stop, like I said, is aggressive, so it's going to turn off quite frequently, and that paired with the dual clutch transmission, that lag that you experienced right when we accelerated the first point, I think it really does make city driving kind of unpleasant and a little difficult. Like if you're trying to make a quick maneuver, like a left turn in front of traffic or whatever, it has enough lag that it can actually make that kind of dangerous. So I'm not a huge fan of the auto start stop. You can turn it off, but you have to go in the screen to do so.
Multi-step.
Yeah, so I really wish they had made that a little bit easier, and that's going to be today's airball. We both experienced that. Living with it in the city, you're just going to really notice that, and it's going to impact your everyday livability.
Now, as far as the Slam Dunk, we're going to say that it's how similar it is to some of the more expensive BMW products, such as the X3. You've heard us point out many times throughout this video you know, oh, this is very similar to the X3, that's very similar to the X3. Obviously, this does cost less. It is BMW's least expensive SUV, so they're not really penalizing you in terms of what is different between this and the X3 on those main important things such as the cabin quality.
Yeah, and I personally also think that this car has a really great value quotient, especially in the 28i model. You can really get one of those for about $45,000 with most of the options that you would need, and that's significantly less than what you're going to find on X3, that's for sure. Now, wrapping things up, as far as your warranty, you have a 4-year, 50,000-mile basic and powertrain warranty. BMW does also include 3 years of complimentary maintenance, which is nice. And now let's talk pricing. This, of course, is the most affordable BMW SUV, so that means we're going to start at $40,950 this year, so that's not too bad of a price. The M35i model, like what we have today, is $50,350 as a starting point. And if you want all the options like what we have on this tester, including a pretty expensive paint color, we're sitting at around $60,000. Now, if you're looking to buy a BMW X1 or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. Now, the reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, a link is provided in our video description, and we also have a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a car is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's dive into resale and reliability. So first up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, Drew and I took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this BMW X1's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 41.1%, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 15.3%. Now, it's worth noting that is below industry average for all vehicle brands. However, it's very much on par with other German luxury brands like Mercedes and Audi. And I will also just point out that this X1 is on the more affordable price end, so typically that will positively affect your resale value percentage, so I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe some higher numbers out of this model specifically.
Now, we also calculated reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several studies on reliability from trustworthy sources, and it combines them in a way that gives you a more holistic picture. In this regard, BMW is rated right at the industry average for overall vehicle makes.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values or reliability data, as well as our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is a big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. Well, guys, that's going to be where we leave off on this 7-day review of the 2025 BMW X1. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, which we hope you did, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're also going to help us to get more 7-day loans like this, so we can really extensively test out some of these products that you may be looking to buy and provide you with those real-world impressions. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. And if you're not already, we'd encourage you to join in. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.